What is failure? When I think about it, I think it's an unfair judgment. I think it's a unrealistic judgment, a measurement that's branded against so many different people with so many different pieces that go into contributing what is a test. I think in society we've measured ourselves so many times against benchmarks that aren't real. They're not fair. They're not gauged. We're all individuals. We all come to the table with different challenges, different insecurities, different points of break-in. That point of uncertainty. I showed up to my first meeting or two and never got loaded again. Does that make me somehow better than the guy that struggled 3 times with relapses? No, I think not. We haven't paid attention to all the other fails, if you will, fails, prior to that day of me making that decision. There's a string of, bumps along the way before I got to that point. The idea of adding more shame, guilt, or shame and remorse and guilt to the idea of somebody's inability to see their outcome or find the support that's required to get them where it is. I think the narrative needs to be rewritten. I don't agree that relapse needs to be stitched into part of being in recovery. But I certainly don't agree with the idea that relapse is a failure as a result of, it goes back to what, now you're morally indeficient. Come on, how do you, if it is a disease, then what part of this contributes? How do we look at somebody in a very specific view and understand what's going on in their life and what contributed to that moment of break-in? There's a lot of pieces that go into it that we should understand that perhaps aren't measurable by, a ruler or a scoreboard. I think too often we chalk that up and we forget about the person and where they came from and what contributed to those points and more so, what could we do to contribute to success? What responsibility do I have into putting into somebody's life to bring them to a successful point? It's easy to stand in judgment in a place of, oh, you failed, you should just do this and you should do this, and if you would have did this and you would be further along today. Well, that's not the truth. It's not real. It's not that person's 360. What do we do to step into somebody's life to help support that, right? I think going back to that idea of support groups. I have a hard time sometimes as it relates to support group. I mentioned earlier, not overly judgmental. It's like we kill each other. We're killing each other with our pious opinions of what we think recovery should look like. Last time I checked, recovery is an individual path for all people seeking it. And I have no judgment on somebody's path and what marks as failure or doesn't. Do you become successful in life and, a bank manager, or do you, go off and, mow lawns? Is there some definitive difference between success and failure? No, it's ridiculous. I'm not a big fan, obviously, of the term failure. I see failure as an opportunity to take a look at what we were doing and try something different. Failure should be seen as a learning experience and an opportunity, and not referred to as failure, just a simple another opportunity to move forward. I don't know what's going on in somebody's heart when they decide that they want to step back into the other side. I don't know what fears are controlling them, right? People can only be as honest as they know how to be. And the truth of the matter is that's their path. Our responsibility is to support people on that path. Failure holds no tone of support for me at all.